Hey guys, what's up? This is the Crazy Kirby Kid, and I am back for episode 2 of Super Mario Fixer. So this is a series where I take Super Mario Maker levels, or levels that people give me, and then I try to change their layout so that they're more in line with the principles and the tenets that Nintendo has established with their mainline Super Mario platformer series. So sometimes I make levels more fair by taking out randomness, sometimes I make things more symmetrical, more even, but there's a lot of things to learn in level design, so we're just taking it one level at a time. This is episode 2, episode 1 can be found on my channel. I'll put links down in the description, but we are going to get started right in this one. This is a level given to me by a person named Isa. He's a fellow NeoGAF gamer, and he brought this level to my attention. It's the only level he has uploaded. As you can see here, it's got a 19, almost 20% completion rate, which is pretty good because I've seen levels that are auto levels in the what is it? In the course world. I've seen levels that are auto and they have about a 40-45% completion rate. So this is pretty good percentage. I think even a lot of decently hard levels only have at most 3% completion. So, you know, there's gamers out there at various skill levels, and this hits a nice sweet spot. We're gonna go ahead and jump in and play it. Check out my Mario hat in the meantime, and we'll show you what it's like, and then afterwards we're gonna jump straight into the editor and I will pick it apart and tell you what I like about it. So here we go. And there you have it.
Mario #1! Woohoo!
And there we go. So as you can see, the level is not long at all. It's actually one gameplay idea, as we call it, and it exists in about 10 separate jumps. That's why it's called 10 Jump Gauntlet. So we get a very straightforward level. It's very accurately labeled, so there's nothing tricky about that. And it looks like there's not a lot going on, but I really like this level. This is one of my favorite Mario Maker levels I've come across, and we will get to the reasons why in a second when we jump into the level editor. But just remember that in Mario overall, you know, we are reminded by the developers themselves that less is more, and looks can kind of be deceiving. So there's a lot of things that this level does right. It's almost perfect, and all I do is add a few things to just really accentuate the parts that I like about the level most. So we're going to jump right into the level editing mode. We will see you on the layout switch. Check it out. Let's go ahead and jump in. And the first thing I want to talk about on this level is just its overall gameplay idea, the overall shape of the level. It's pretty obvious when looking at the level map that it's a straight line, and it goes from the top of the level down diagonally to the bottom. Really interesting looking in that regard. Yeah, it goes to the bottom. As you can see, diagonal line. Each of the 10 jumps increases in difficulty in terms of the complexity of the enemy formation, and each of the coins increases in number, so that's really cool too. Very straightforward idea, but these are the best ways to start making some of the best clean levels. Like, the whole point of the level is to deliver a straightforward gameplay challenge so that the player has a range of opportunities and ways to display their skill and their particular playstyle and preferences and all of that. So this level does two things really well right off the bat. It's a big line down, it's very easy to understand, and they give you plenty of space. The level gives you plenty of space over each jump to make the jumps, even when it's not necessary. So I'm going to jump in. I'll show you what I mean. There's plenty of jump here, room here. You can jump off the screen a little bit, but that's fine. Plenty of room to jump over these guys. In fact, you have the same amount of room for each jump, even though the jumps are getting higher, which is kind of essential for the whole thing to escalate, right? And then you can get to the end just like that. So just really clear, really simple. We're talking about a very specific kind of variation that I wrote about on my blog. I'll show you right here on this website. So I wrote this article in 2008, a long time ago, and talking about, you know, how games create very challenging and varied content whenever you're playing it. and identified a couple of cool things, like games need different things to vary. There's all kinds of variation. That's a screenshot of Advanced Wars. But this example is what I want to show you. With WarioWare. WarioWare is a Smooth Moves, a really cool game. Micro games that go back to back, and it takes a couple of seconds to beat each one, and they give you like a random assortment. But the cool part is each individual micro game they have has multiple levels of difficulty, and if you play them individually, you get to experience all these back to back. So I took these screenshots to show you what it's like for the different kinds of variation in video games. And like, if you're familiar with the game, it makes more sense. Each of these represents a different type, but the one I want to talk about is this one on the end with the shift. You hold the Wiimote vertically like this, and then you physically move it around like you're driving the shift of a car, the shift stick. And in this challenge right here, the first one on the right, you move it down just two notches. The next difficulty level is you move it 3, whether that's a down, left, up, or down, left, down, as in the screenshot. And the final one, you move it 4. So obviously, like, the difficulty in this case is just adding an additional direction of movement required to pass the challenge. And these kinds of what we call kind of linear progressions, these linear ways of doing variation, are really easy to understand. They also provide a really clear challenge for players to sort of measure their skill, because they know exactly at which point their skills failed. If they make a mistake, they're like, oh, it's exactly between steps 3 and 4 or 1 and 2, and it really helps the player make an informed decision about adjusting the trials for the next time. So it's just really cool. Nothing wrong with this kind of challenge, even though it's straightforward, even though the level's short. There's a lot to it. So that's the first thing I wanted to point out. What I like about it is it doesn't overestimate challenge, design the challenge for the stage by putting too many tricky jumps, hard to discern jumps, or nuanced challenges. Like, for example, when I'm playing, you could have made these jumps require the use of this spin twirl, which is in the new Super Mario Brothers games. It allows you to hover a little bit, and you can do it multiple times in midair. None of these jumps require the spin twirl, but it does help. So if you have that bit of understanding and knowledge about the game, definitely put it to use. But because the game doesn't force you to do it, it actually makes the challenge a lot cleaner, a lot more fair, and a lot less linear, so that if you do have those skills, you can step up to the plate. I like that. I think that's the way Nintendo designs their levels. It's a lot more accessible, and it kind of makes the level more interesting because you have 2 ways to go, and if you do have the skills, it's something you can showcase your talent instead of, for those who don't have it, they just fail 100% of the time, and people who know, they win 100% of the time. You get a little bit more variation of experience. So we're going to talk about the changes I made to this level. I guess there's really not to mark on the level map, other than the fact that, each jump, it's its own section. 2, 3, 4. Then we move this over. 5, 6. You can count the number of coins above each section, so that kind of helps. I almost don't even need these numbers, but I'll put them anyway. 9 and 10. This last area is actually the most interesting part of the game. It's the area where I spent the most time playing around in, when I was just figuring out what I like about this level and what's possible. So even without me making adjustments, I found a lot of different ways to engage in this challenge, and I'm going to start showing you a couple of those ways. I mean, this is all sort of building up into the layers of the level design. And all layers really means in this case is there's multiple ways to experience the level, multiple distinct kinds of challenges, or multiple distinct kinds of experiences. So let me show you a few, just so we're clear here. So you can start here and skip all the coins if you wanted to. So like a no coin run like this. 1, 2, not like that. 1, 2, and like skip all the coins and bounce off the heads of all the enemies, if you understand that the spin jump keeps Mario safe from even these dangerous spiny enemies, right? Like, you can do a lot like that and beat the game. So that's definitely possible, and it's not that hard. It's really interesting, and it allows players who have that knowledge and that skill to either mix and match the 2 different playstyles or just go for it. That's definitely something that's in the original game, and that's something that I really liked. So after I discovered that, I'm like, well, what other different kinds of things are possible in this level? Well, so we can do another no coin run, right? And if you try to not get any coins, the whole level has a very different feel and flavor. Like, it's not about rushing through, but New Super Mario Bros. U has challenges like this, where you are challenged to get through the level without getting 5 coins or any coins for that matter. See how hard that was? You have to use the spin twirl for this. And it's so much better to put these kinds of nuanced challenges into the game when they're optional. So players aren't just tempted to, you know, do what I'm doing now, like try it, fail, and then reset over and over. It's just much more fluid and much more in line with how Nintendo designs levels with optional layers of difficulty. So as you can see here, it's not easy to get all around all of them, but it is possible. Like that, and sometimes you kill yourself. So you could even be extra safe like this. Jump, twirl, and then butt stomp before you kill yourself. Ground pound, if you will. Butt stomp. So it's like really hard to get around some of these coins. So there's no coin runs, a legitimate layer to this level design, and this is something else I discovered when trying to go for no coin runs. If you don't jump off all the heads of the enemies, you can do one of those. And did you know that this area down here is actually walkable? A lot of people don't know that, but ooh, that was really tight. I can't believe I made that. But yeah, you can extend your no coin run by doing this. And right before you walk out the platform, just drop in midair spin and then cut back. Ooh, don't want to die there. And that allows you to bypass these areas that look impossible. Like that. With a little practice, it's something you can do pretty consistently. But then here's the part where it gets crazy. Like, these coins are in my way, and if I try to go below, whoop, not like that. If I try to go below, you can see these invisible coin blocks. And I believe the developer Issa originally put these here so that players don't bypass this last jump, which is the hardest jump, and get into this area. Well, I did a lot of secrets right there. Ignore that. So these coin blocks are not cheap. They're not here to give you a easy death or a cheap laugh, but they're actually here to help you, force you to engage in the presented challenge. So I completely agree with these placements. I think they're really interesting. They actually unlock a lot of interesting challenges later that we'll talk about. But as far as a no coin run, because that invisible block is there, I can't travel underneath here and like jump on top. Like, how am I supposed to actually get around it? And then you get a coin there and it's all ruined. So it looks like the way the level is tuned just from Issa's default level that he submitted, you can't do a no coin run this far into the level because of these obstacles. But technically that's not true. I actually found a way to do it, and we're going to go back a little bit and go right here. So going underneath the platform stops being effective later on. So what if we try this trick? Jumping on top halfway through and doing that really tight maneuver in order to get on top, and then just taking the rest from here, you know, and then bouncing to the end of the stage. But, you know, obviously if you can bounce there to the end of the stage, then you probably should have been doing it from the beginning. But it's really cool how we recognize that there is a very specific point, I'll draw it on the map, right here, where traveling below the stage, jumping over and traveling below, right here is where you cannot progress any farther for a no coin run traveling underneath the platforms. Right. So that's really interesting, and that's something we can tune and fix and tweak now that we're aware that this is something interesting about the level. So yeah, bouncing on their heads on the way down, jumping on the way down, those are the different layers. Even though this level looks really straightforward, there's multiple ways to do it. So I'm going to outline this real quick. So you can run down and jump like this. That's layer 1. You can spin jump off these enemies' heads. That's layer 2. And then you can go underneath. You know, that's layer 3. Here's 1, 2, 3. It's layer 3. And here's another cool thing that I think is really cool about the way this level is tuned by default. I'll hit start. So coins in Mario games are really important, and as you can see here, I'm grabbing all the coins as I go along, and I think that's a really important level of polish and tuning. I didn't grab that one. So grabbing all the coins as you go along is a really important level of polish that is actually present in the majority of Mario games. There's very few areas where they present you a formation of coins and you can't grab them all on one go. It's just sort of a general principle that they've kept since the original game, but if you see a coin, it's safe. They've maintained that throughout all the Mario games. But if you see a coin, you should also be able to grab it in one go without having to repeat the level twice. So like, in general, that's something they've kept up, and I want to keep maintaining that principle for this level. So the basic idea is you should be able to run through this level and without slowing down hardly at all, grab every single coin as you make it down. And the reason why this is so important is Mario is a game about platforming. He has a really big jump, he has hang time. You want to create level design that gives you plenty of space to enjoy and use that air maneuverability and hang time to put Mario where you want and when you want. So it's all about timing and spacing. And what these coins do is say, hey, can you adjust your timing and spacing and grab these while still doing whatever? And by tuning the level to where the player can, if they play very precisely and very accurately, grab all the coins as they go along, that's a really clear way to give feedback to the player, both what's possible challenge-wise, and if they miss a coin, they know how off they were. So like, I'll show you what's like. You can grab this one again. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, grab those, grab 5, grab 6, grab 7, grab 8, grab 9, and oh, it's impossible to grab 10, right? It's impossible. I've tried it so many times, and you cannot grab, at least I don't think you can grab, all those coins on number 10. So that's another area we're going to be tweaking slightly. Let me just go ahead and mark that on the map. So based on this formation, 10 looks odd, right? Like you can't grab them all. Whoop. I'm going to put can't grab all. And that's kind of a bummer, right? You do all this work tuning the level and you did all those amazing jumps, right? But then right at the end, it's like, oh, you know, to keep up with the theme of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it breaks the theme. So that's something we can tweak easily. I've had a blast playing this level, and as far as all the additional gameplay depth and layers involved, I think those are best highlighted when we take a look at some of the modifications I did. So we're going to jump over to the next screen and talk about all the changes I made and look at some of our notes. Bear with me for a second, I'm going to do a switch. Okay guys, so this is the version that I tweaked. It's nearly complete, so I get the chance to show you. And you'll notice that it looks almost exactly the same, which is good because you don't have to change a lot oftentimes in levels to make them better. It's about making little tweaks and maintaining the core ideas that are presented, at least the purpose of this video. So you notice right off the bat I added this area down here, right? So let's take a look at that. So I'm playing, and normally people see coins and they just automatically start going, but if you look closely, there's an area down there, and check this out. Now, just looking at this formation, you should know what you need to do in order to access this pipe. And I give you a little hint with this trapped Koopa, like, you need Koopa, bring Koopa back. So you're thinking like, oh, that's kind of crazy, and this is a little area tucked off to the side, so how do you get a Koopa? Well, first you gotta get out of this place. And you know, a little run, jump, and wall kick is how you get out. So not too hard to get out, but not exactly easy. And then let's say you want to try to get that Koopa, like maybe I'll get this Koopa. Well, if you try to jump on him, you know, you'll probably die. And you won't be able to get it. And there's a very small chance that you can jump on his nose, but you still die because you have nowhere else to go. So let's see if I can do this. Because Koopa's noses do poke out from their face. And I'm still invincible, so I can't do that one. So yeah, like, you're not going to be able to get the Koopa from here. That's basically the bottom line. This area is... You're going to have to look elsewhere to get your Koopa Troopa. So let's zoom to the end of the level. Let's say you play it. And then you notice that there are Koopa down here. So let's go through some of the changes I made to bring this whole thing together. Let's see. So I moved the whole level one brick over to the right. There we go. And you'll see it right here. I'll highlight it on the map for you. Oops, what are those still doing there? Well, that's fine. So right here is highlighted. I moved the brick over 1 over to the right, so I'm going to grab some color, some level element color, level design color, and I'm going to highlight this. The circle. That brick is actually moved 1 over to the right, or this whole like axe area. I'm going to highlight this. It's moved over 1 over to the right. And I added a brick here so that we still maintain the 3 question blocks, and the level is still pretty much the same challenge. But the reason why I moved this over is because we're going to start doing a lot of tricky tricks over in this area, and it was really annoying to try to jump over this axe right here so we wouldn't win the level, so we could do all this neat stuff. So I made it a little easier for to do the jumping over. You'll see that in a second. The next thing I changed was the final coin arrangement. So this is what we were talking about last time. Let's go over here. Notice that the coin is now in a pyramid shape. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the last one, 10, is on top. And because Mario's jumping up from these platforms, his jumps in an arc like this. I'll grab a blue color for mechanics. His jumps in an arc like this. So it makes more sense to come in with an attack like this and jump up and out like that to grab all the coins. This actually allows you to jump all these coins in one go, which is something that we found that you couldn't do in the original version. And I think this keeps up with the visual unity a little bit. I'm going to do a gray color for visual unity. So check this out. This coin's floating, section 1, it's floating right here in the middle. Section 2, it's maintaining this box shape. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a terrible box. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a box. 3 maintains the box. 4 is definitely in a box. And you can see that the box shape outlines very clear symmetrical progression, kind of like, you know, doing tallies, and you can kind of see the pattern going. Once you establish the pattern, you want to maintain that. So here, this shape being a square with a dot on top is actually more in line with the pattern established throughout the series than having a horizontal rectangle. So that's why I changed it. It solved 2 problems in one: a visual design problem and a playing problem. So let's see what it looks like if I try to grab that. So I didn't get it there, but let me try it a few more times. So it's really tight, but it is possible to grab all those coins and get over the top. See that? I almost did it. Like, you saw how close that was, so I'm going to try it again. But this is why coins are really cool. Like, obviously I saw what I missed, and I know what I need to do to adjust, and I missed it by just that much. I'm going to try again. Wow, why am I missing that? Oh, so close. You see what I had to do? I was so close. I grabbed them all, and I just didn't press forward fast enough. It's a little easier when you have some momentum, and you... Oh, almost did it. Oh, I gotta do it. So obviously it's a little easier when you get a running start because you're adjusting your jumps all the way down. That's why it's cool. Oh, so close. So you almost have to drop in on it from the vertically. Yes! Oh, I just did it. Wow. So you can see that the challenge is there, the tuning is there, the game, all the mechanics are there, the control is there, the skill's there. You just need to let the player have enough space and feedback to recognize these challenges for themselves and to go for them. So definitely that's a really cool thing. So as you can see in this list, change the final coin arrangement for that same reason. Change these last 2 enemies. So let me highlight this for you on the map and get the enemy elements color right here. Oops, ignore that. So these last 2 enemies in the original version were like this guy below them. They were like this guy right here. But these guys, I removed their hats. So like I removed the big spiny that was riding on top of these Koopas, and now they're just 2 naked Koopas. And that's really important for some of the stuff we're about to get into and accessing that secret area that I just showed you at the top. But you know, I liked what he had before, but we're just making it a little easier for the player to recognize some of these additional layers and elements of the design by giving them clear signs and clear opportunities and easier opportunities to do it. So this is what I'm talking about. Let me show you. The secret area, so we talked before about how many paths there are in the game. You can jump down, you can bounce off the spinies, you can do a no-coin run, you can go underneath the platforms. There's a ton of variation there, a ton of pathing you can choose from. But to get to the secret area, you have to get all the way down to the end and bring a Koopa back. And that's doing something what we call suspension. And I call it suspension because you're taking elements from one area and fitting them to another. So in order to access the secret area, you know, you have to get down a small Mario. You have the option of doing a no-coin run or grabbing all the coins. You can sneak on their platforms, but this is where we start talking about how to travel back to the start. And this is a concept I call folded level design. Let me show you here. Normal Mario games are normal video games, very simple video games are linear. You start at the beginning right here, and you go to the end, and that's it. Mario, even in the original game, introduced what we call alternate paths or shortcuts. And 1-1 has that pipe you go into, and it cuts you to the end of the game. Or in the level. And even if it's not like technically a shortcut, alternate paths are a really interesting thing when you're talking about pathing and level design and progression. So there's other varieties like branching endings, multiple endings. Mario does that. Mario, does it do multiple entrances? I don't know if Mario has very many examples of branch start, but you know, it's a very similar concept. But here's what we're talking about. Folded level design is where you start at the beginning and then you go through a level and you reach this point where you have to go back across the same area you just traveled through. And the reason why this is so cool is because there's usually some kind of twist on your way back. Whether it's that the gravity is moving in the opposite direction, whether you're going uphill versus downhill, or whether you have to carry something from a place and bring it back. And it's beyond just having a fetch quest. This is actually the gameplay challenge and the dynamics involved in that challenge stack based on the experiences that you had going towards it. So what we have here in the Mario Maker level is a perfect example of that. Let me show you. There's variation. We'll talk about nuance as we do this. But this level, to get to the end, you have to bring a Koopa back. And let me show you all these different ways that you can get a Koopa, just to show you the sheer variety. So when you're standing under here, if you time this perfectly, you actually knock that Koopa unconscious. And when he wakes up, he will always go in the direction you're going. So you could technically jump up here, jump, grab him, and then drop him on these guys. This is a free Koopa shell. And I'm going to demonstrate the shell drop technique and then the edge pickup technique. So like when you drop a shell on the edge, you can run and pick it up in midair. Oops. Or re-squish him if you need to. Shoes. So he's going to walk towards me. Okay, now he's squished on the edge. And if you time it just right and get enough speed, you can catch these guys on the edge. I didn't do a very good job of it, so let's see if I can wait for him to come back around. This is a really nuanced technique. It involves careful spacing and time. There, you see that? I got it. So now I can kill these guys and do the same technique. Oops, almost killed myself. And then you can do a Koopa shell drop to reset the timer, and then repeat. Oop. Yeah, didn't mean to throw that, but you get the idea. So that's one way to get a Koopa shell. Here's another cool thing you can do down here. If you hit these two bricks, and then hit this brick, it actually creates platforms for these enemies, and they walk past you. So it's a little bit like stealthing. And then you have access to this free Koopa here, which you can drop and drop. Or kill him. And if you lose a Koopa, this is why I changed these two enemies over here, and why I changed that one brick. Because once you have this formation, you can start grabbing Koopas and bringing them back with you. And you can always reset the Koopa if you need more time. So this is just the end of the level, but this crease is where things get really interesting. Like right there, I didn't actually drop that in a way where I can pick it up, so I'm going to have to wait till the turtle wakes up and bring it back over here, right? So you're manipulating, you're engaging the level in a new way, you're manipulating enemies, you're using techniques to drop them on enemies in ways that they probably did not want to be dropped, like that. Resetting it, and this is how you take the Koopa shell back up. Now this process seems a little slow. Oops, almost killed myself. This process seems a little slow, but once you get past, let's say, these first few, like right here, I can technically set myself up for a triple jump. 1, 2, oops, that wasn't fast enough. Like that, and then I got over that enemy, and now I know that all the others are not tall enough because of the information I learned coming down the mountain in the first place. So yeah, one other thing I did was I increased the timer because all this cool, interesting layered stuff, you need time to set it up. And technically, going backwards uphill is just super interesting to me. Like, and then once you break that brick, go into the pipe, and after you've done all that work, everything else is just easy street. Like, congratulations for being really awesome. Enjoy the free run back down. And you win. So that's like a really cool thing that you can do in this level because you go all the way down, because you understand the spacing, because you understand how enemies work, but it requires the use of a lot of nuanced techniques. So what do I mean by nuance? So let's take a look at this blog post that I wrote a long time ago. Super Mario Nuance. Wrote it in 2011, but it's basically talking about what is nuance. And people talk all the time about this game's deep, this game's complex, this game's nuanced, whatever. What does that really mean? Well, complexities are just the rules in the system, and some games are really complex. Mario's not necessarily on the complex side at all, but games, strategy games and other games like that, RPGs, tend to have a lot of rules, a lot of elements inside of them. But it doesn't mean that they're necessarily deep, and that's kind of a different conversation. But one thing I want to talk about is what nuance is, and basically nuances are like the details that most people overlook. Most people don't quite understand the full power of, the full implications of, the full dynamics of. And that basically means we can understand nuance as a product of learning and exposure. Like, what makes something nuanced is nobody forced you to learn it. Nobody thinks Mario's jump in the original Mario Bros. Is nuanced because you have to use the jump to get around the first Goomba. There's no way to play the game, beat the level, or enjoy the game without understanding Mario can jump. So then it becomes an obvious thing. But the wall kicking in the original Mario Brothers, that's super nuanced. It requires knowing that Mario can clip through platforms. It requires having the right speed and then hitting jump on the right frame. Most people don't even know that exists, let alone how to do it. So like, you can see that there's a whole spectrum there of, depending on if the level forces you to learn it or how likely it is to discover it, that's why certain rules and properties and possibilities of a game become nuanced. So most people probably don't know about the Koopa shell drop that I just showed you. Most people don't know about killing a Koopa from underneath with a invisible block the moment their foot steps over the ledge. And most people probably don't use the spin jump and know about jumping off enemies. So clearly we're pushing into more difficult layers of the level design. But the best part is we haven't actually interrupted or tampered with the original straightforward, easy to present, clear challenge that is 10 jump Gauntlet. So that's why I really kind of felt the liberty to put all these in, because if you have the skill, you can do it, and it doesn't ruin it for anybody else. And we're not forcing it on you either. So that actually makes the learning process and the discoverability process that much more rewarding and enjoyable. Putting hints that there's a world out there to discover and then letting the player figure it out from there is a pretty good way to do it. So yeah, that's why these Koopas here are naked, because if you can manage to get in this area, you need to manipulate the Koopas to get back. There's a couple of other neat tricks I wanted to... Where's my notebook? Show you about this level. Let's see. So I showed you grabbing the Koopas. I showed you hitting him from underneath. I showed you the multiple pass down, suspension. I showed you... I'm going to show you the tricky jump. Oh, I already did show you the tricky jump in the undercarriage. Alright, so that's just about everything, right? Let's go back over to the list. So yeah, folded level design. The triple jump becomes more useful when you're traveling uphill than downhill, and that's really cool. Desyncing, you can desync these enemy walking patterns by manipulating these question blocks. So I'm going to highlight that in this blue color. Here is for desync, D-E-S-Y-N-C. Folded level design would put in this level design color. So once you get all the way down, the challenge is coming back up the hill. That's a really cool thing. High level suspension, we're going to put with this light blue color. You can grab any of these turtles. Oops, that's not light blue color. You can grab any of these Koopas, or you can even get this Koopa. Or there's another way to get a Koopa. I'll show you. It's really cool. Let me just start over here then. So as long as the Koopa doesn't fall in lava, it technically doesn't die, and you can manipulate spawns like this, where you move off screen. Okay, let me do this first. Okay. See how the shell keeps going? I freed this Koopa, I can take him, but check out what happens over here. Both Koopas are back. That's because I threw the shell off the screen. And if the Koopa goes off the screen, it doesn't die. Therefore, if you pull the camera back, it spawns. So you can technically grab any of these Koopas, take them back into the level, and then throw them back towards base a little bit, and preserve Koopas this way. So this is more nuanced rules. Like if you're really familiar with Mario, you can do all these tricks. Like I'll show you that. You just throw them. Kill that Koopa. Koopas are back. So you almost have an infinite resource. That's another cool way to get a Koopa. I'll show you another cool way to get a Koopa. Oop. Like I showed you earlier, you can just jump and throw them that way, and then that's a naked Koopa, right? And you can do the same technique I showed you earlier. Like that, and then get a running jump. And that's a Koopa. So tons of ways. None of this is linear, none of this is set. You can just do that and just own people, right? Like you can do everything. So even in the super difficult layers of challenge we're building in, there's so much variation, and it's all the basic Mario rules with varying degrees of nuance. Like once you understand how the shells work, you know, manipulating spawns is a little bit high on the nuance scale. Most people probably wouldn't think of that, but dropping Koopa shells is not, and killing enemies is not. So suspension, you know, bringing Koopas back across the stage, that's pretty cool. Your Koopa bank, that's what I'm talking about. You can respawn them. Koopa drop, spawn manipulation, more and more nuanced, right? The power-up lock, you have to throw a Koopa shell down there. And then finally, there's a secret behind the secret. It's something I didn't show you, but you know, if you don't want to know it, you know, skip forward about a minute. But check this out. So once you access the secret area, oops, well, I don't need the star. You're like, oh, do I go in this pipe? There's nothing else here. Let me check out what's over here. Okay, nothing's over there. Most people would give up at that point. But if you check out what's over here, you quickly see that there's a trail of coins leading through this pipe. And hiding a secret behind a secret's a classic Mario trick. Damn. Hiding a secret behind a secret is a classic Mario trick, and I'll show you some of the examples of when it happened. I wrote a series called Measure Mario on my blog in I wrote this in 2009, so a year after some of those other articles, and it talked about locks and secrets and how Super Mario Brothers does it throughout the years. There's 4 main different types of ways to create a secret, but one of the best ones, as I demonstrate here, is level 1, 2 in the original Mario Brothers. When you're running on the top, you know, that's a secret, but then if you get to the end of the level and you see the exit pipe, you can imagine players would see that and then exit the level like normal, but then there's a secret behind that secret. That's the warp pipes that we're all very familiar with now. So hiding secrets behind secrets is a really clever way of just putting something in a place where most people won't even think to look. Here's another example. In Lost Levels, they hide secrets in the bonus rooms, so you can see invisible blocks and fire flower power-ups. Here's another example, one of my favorites, Bros 3. You get to this bonus area and there's coins and you're like, ooh, free coins. And if you don't have a raccoon tail, you'll never know of this upper area right here, where if you fly up to it, you can actually get a 1-up mushroom and more coins. And like I was telling you before, on this level, it's possible to grab every single one of these coins and fly up and get the 1-up all in one go. So, I mean, they've clearly polished their levels to a very fine degree, but it's not something that's impossible for us as long as we know what we're doing. And that seems to be yeah, so that's about secrets. Let's go back to the list. Hit a secret behind a secret. And yeah, that's everything. So as far as achievements go, getting that final secret is one of the high level achievements. You can phrase any achievements like you beat the level in X amount of seconds while grabbing all coins to challenge people to grab them all in one go. But ultimately, the level was really good to start. I just changed a few things, and just really enjoyed playing around with this for hours, even before I started manipulating it, or I guess an hour, a little bit over an hour. It's just a lot of fun, and I find that the best Mario levels are the ones that do have multiple paths, do have multiple types of level design, you know, linear, straightforward, and it also folded in this case. Allows you to do the most with suspension, and even has power-up variation in terms of challenge or secrets. And this level now has it all. It looks really straightforward, but it has a ton that you can do that's mostly stuff that you should discover either just by playing around, making mistakes, or being curious. I mean, that's one of the best ways that Mario levels guide players to some of their more interesting parts of their level design. They set you up to where even if you make a mistake, even if you lose your power up here, it guides you back into other paths or alternate paths or emergent parts of the level that you would have never done if you weren't in that weird position in the first place. That's why Miyamoto keeps talking about level 1-1, where players discover that the mushroom is a power-up because they want to avoid it and they get hit and they pump back down. That's some of the most interesting parts about Mario's level design and game design in general, and that's why Mario has held up so well over the years. Nintendo obviously knows what they're doing. It's time for us to start learning the same lessons and building levels just as good as some of those. So hope you enjoyed the series. That's everything for this updated version of Esau's level 10 Jump Gauntlet. You can find all the levels online. I'm going to post the codes, and just give me some feedback. Send me some levels you might want me to look at or talk about or fix, and we will take it from there. My name's Crazy Kirby Kid. I got a blog, critical-gaming.com, but it's kind of old. My new project is designoriented.net, and I'll have links down in the description. I'll see you guys next time. Whee!